Welcome to another episode of the Profitable Home Services Podcast. I'm your host, Diane Gardner, and today we're going to pick a little different topic as far as plugging another profit leak for you. I want to ask you a question. Did you just have your best year ever? And if so, why did you give so much money to the IRS? Wow, loaded question there. At the time of this recording, we're just finishing up with tax season, and many of you have written some really big checks to the IRS and or both IRS and your state. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber, if you're a roofer, an electrician, an HVAC, a landscaper, or some other type of home service business, we all must pay taxes. Even I pay taxes in my own business. Imagine this. Last year was your best year ever. You have worked your tail off. You've grown your business. You've added to your team. You've learned how to control your job costs. You've tightened up your profit leaks here and there because you've been listening to this podcast for quite a while now. And you hear me talk about this stuff all the time. Maybe you've added a couple trucks to your fleet and you've hired a couple technicians or even a salesperson. Maybe you were able to take your spouse on a weekend getaway or that family dream vacation that you've always wanted to do. Well, out of the blue, or maybe it's not out of the blue, your accountant calls and says, "Congratulations, you owe $98,000 in tax." At that point, you felt like a ton of bricks just landed on you. Suddenly, your best year ever didn't feel so great anymore. Suddenly, you're wondering why I worked so hard to give that much of it to the IRS. Why am I going without sleep? Why am I troubleshooting and putting out all these fires all the time just to give that big of a number to the IRS? And for some of you, maybe it was $198,000. Maybe it was only $50,000, depending on the size of your business. But it was a big number, and those big numbers hurt. I want to introduce an idea to you today. And I think, is probably one of the biggest profit leaks in your business. But it's not going to be what you think it is. Normally, I'm talking about wasted materials and overtime hours and callbacks and underpricing, all those things where profit leaks happen in your business. But today, I want to talk about your taxes. I know that's not a fun topic, but it's an important one. So please stay with me. I would like to introduce Sneaky Leaky to those of you who aren't familiar with them. We have a lot of new listeners recently. Sneaky Leaky is a little, we call him kind of a droplet type of a little guy. He's green. He's sneaky. He loves to get in your business and find ways that he can waste money, that he can dilute your profits down. There's so many ways. It's just kind of the list is endless of ways that Sneaky Leaky can get into your business and just kill your profits. Well, Sneaky Leaky loves tax season. And one of the best things that he loves about tax season is he knows that taxes are an uncomfortable topic. And he knows that most home service business owners don't want to think about them during the year. They will think about them in March or April when they have to, or maybe it's September or October if they've extended their tax returns. And he knows that you'll put your head in the sand and you'll do anything except learn and talk about taxes. And by that time, the money that you may have had for taxes is gone. It's been spent on something else that was more important, because taxes aren't something we like to focus our attention on. And I want to talk for just a minute why this happens over and over and over again in the home service industry. I think the biggest mistake that I see when I work with my plumbers and roofers and HVAC, electricians, landscapers, all those kinds of home service businesses, is that most of the companies have one big bank account. And in that one big bank account, it looks like all that money is up for grabs. And it's easy to assume that that money is equal status. There's nothing special about it. It can be used for wherever it's needed in the business. You might run out and buy a piece of equipment, buy a new truck or a van, take a distribution, upgrade your lifestyle a little bit, maybe move into a bigger home, or you might reinvest back into your business. But part of that money was never really yours. Part of it belongs to taxes and to Uncle Sam. So when we are talking about our money, our dollars, you've probably heard me say over and over again that every dollar in your business has a job. Well, a certain portion of those dollars in your business, their job is to pay your income tax. And we all have to pay taxes. There's nobody that's exempt from paying taxes unless you're super, super low income. And I hope that's none of you guys. When you give your dollars a job ahead of time, then they're able to do that job and to do a much better job for you. And you don't accidentally end up spending that money on something that it should not have been spent on. And when we can put that money away that belongs to the taxes, we can take the pain out of tax season. Another thought I'd like to bring to you is that most people only get tax preparation services. They're not getting tax planning services. And I know there's a lot of confusion around that topic. I would like to clarify that and tell you that tax preparation is always looking back at history. It's like trying to drive your car forward by only looking in the rearview mirror. Well, you can't tell what's in front of you, but you can certainly see what's behind you. Well, that's what tax preparation is. It's taking what has already happened and reporting it onto the correct forms and then submitting them onto the various taxing agencies. But tax planning is looking forward. It is asking the question, what can we do now during the year to legally keep more of what you make? And you'd be surprised at how many options are out there, all in the IRS code. So the best part of this is that tax planning starts right now. It doesn't start in December. It starts right now. And there's not a lot you can do if you come to me in the month of December because the time is just too short with the holidays and everything in there. But if you were to take the rest of this year and actually be able to implement some tax planning strategies in your business, oh, you would have such a big difference in next year's tax bill. You'd be reaching out and going, Diane, thank you so much. Well, a couple of years ago, I was working with a guy in Georgia. He had never, ever had multiple bank accounts. He always just had one. Every year when it came time to pay his taxes, he did a big gulp and he'd pay a small portion of what he was owed, of what was owed, and then he'd have to do an installment agreement with the IRS and make payments throughout the year. Well, when he came to see me, we came up with the idea and he agreed to it that we would open up a tax account. And we had to put enough money in it to not only be able to make last year's payment, but put away this year's estimated tax. So that was a little painful for him because he was covering two different kinds of tax there. And so he opened up his first profit first account, and it happened to be a tax account. And he was very disciplined. And so he proceeded to make his weekly transfers into this account. Then he stepped out in faith and he made his first estimated payment in April, his next one in June, and September the following January. And he wasn't sure he could actually do that, but he did it. And along the way, he implemented some tax saving strategies that we had set up for him. At tax time, when I called him to tell him how much tax he owed, he was so happy because for the first time in his life, and he had been in business probably 15 years or so, the first time in his life, he had more than enough money sitting in his tax account to pay that final small balance to the IRS. He went on and on about the relief that he felt at not being in debt to the IRS, being able to be free and clear and to concentrate that next year on his business and putting the appropriate amount of money in his tax account once again. And it was the first year he did not need an installment agreement with the IRS. And what a life-changing event that was for him in his business and as he continued to grow. Well, most home service business owners think that their a tax preparer or their accountant is going to bring them all these tax savings ideas during tax season when they're working on your tax return. And I'm here to tell you that the truth is, during tax season, they are so tired and so stressed out that they may not even be thinking about ways to save you tax. I know I struggle with that with my own clients during tax season because you are so tired and you're pushed so hard and that deadline's looming in your face and you've got to get a certain number of returns done every day or you don't make the deadline. So it's not a good time of year to plan on your tax preparer to even think about that. And then I will tell you the majority of tax preparers are just tax preparers. They're not strategic tax planning accountants. Other home service business owners will put their head in the sand, and I'm going to use air quotes, they're going to just deal with it later. That's not a comfortable topic, it's painful. And so it's just easier just to keep going and not even think about it. I hope you're not one of those. And then there's a group of home service business owners out there that think that, paying taxes is just the price of success. If I pay a big tax bill, it meant I had a great year. Well, we can have a really great year and not have to pay a really huge tax bill. So I want to challenge your thinking if you're in one of those three camps. My tax preparer will handle it, I'll deal with it later, or that's just the cost of success, paying a lot of tax. When you pay more in tax than what you legally owe because you have not used the IRS code to your own advantage, you are simply having another profit leak in your business, and it's like giving the IRS a huge tip. Now, I don't know about you, but in my world, I would not want to give them a tip of any sort. I don't think they give outstanding service. And that's what tips are for. So I want to challenge your thinking. There are a lot of options out there, ways that you can drastically change your tax bill for 2026. When all of your money is in one bank account, it is open and available to be spent. So I want to talk just for a minute about profit first accounts. Some of you have heard me talk about it a lot, but that's okay. It's always good for a refresher. And I know we have a lot of new listeners. So Profit First is a system that allows us to operate multiple bank accounts. We will have a separate bank account for income taxes, one for owner's pay, one for profit, one for, I usually call it an emergency fund. We might have one for future growth or capital expenditures. So we have lots of different reasons to have accounts, and no two businesses are exactly alike. I have some clients that have 8 or 10 accounts. I have some that only have 5 or 6. Just depends on the need of the business. And when we put money into those accounts, we treat it as it's off limits. We don't borrow from it. We don't transfer money back and forth from it. It is off limits. And we strategically run our business out of our operating account or our OpEx account. When we do that, we are giving our dollars the jobs that they should be doing. Some dollars have jobs to go create profit for you. Other dollars have jobs to pay your profit or pay your taxes, I mean. Others are profit dollars, and that's your reward for taking the gamble and the risk of being an entrepreneur and having this business. Others are your pay. That's the pay you get for the work you actually do in your business. So every dollar needs to have a job and needs to go do that job well. The home service business owners who sleep well at night during tax season, especially, are those who have been setting their money aside all year long and funding that tax account and protecting it well. Oftentimes, I find home service business owners wait too long to speak with a tax planning advisor of some sort. They wait till December or even in January when it's really too late because the year is closed. I want to say that I think the very best time for tax planning is right now. As this episode will go live, whether it's in the month of April or May, I'm not sure. But May and June are the best months for tax planning. I know the good weather's here and you want to get outside and do some things with your family. I promise you it won't take a lot of time. Hook up with a proactive tax planning advisor like myself and spend a little bit of time putting together that preliminary plan. We've got lots of months in the year to implement that plan, but it's best if we set it up right now. And then in September, we are able to start seeing some movement, some action. And then when we meet again in November, we're actually fine tuning those final little details. And now you have a successful tax plan that is working for you this year. By April, when you're paying that tax money, the game's over. It's too late. Right now, we have time to make some strategic moves and make a huge difference in your 2026 tax bill. Now, oftentimes, home service business owners aren't even aware of some of the strategies that they might be able to use in their business. So here's just a really short list. There's the list that I work with is considerably longer than this. If you're newer in business, we might need to look at your entity type. Or maybe you have a retirement plan. But if it's one of those plans that is required by your state, I can guarantee you it has huge profit leaks in it. What about hiring family members or using Section 179 and bonus depreciation in a way that really works for your business? Or there's energy credits or cost segregation if you own a building, or maybe even an accountable plan or the Augusta rule. There's so many more out there. That's just a very short list. There's no one size fits all strategy. Every plan is custom because the best strategy depends on your business, your profit, and most of all, your personal and business goals. But if nobody's having those conversations with you, there is a extremely good chance that profit and money is leaking out of your business each and every year. I recently did a tax return for a gentleman who doesn't own a business. When I first saw his tax return, I about died. I'd never seen anybody pay as much income tax as he was paying on his tax return. I immediately got on the phone with him and said, "We need to talk. I can decrease that amount of tax that you pay every single year. Has your prior accountant ever had any conversations with you about this?" And he says, "No, they haven't. They just prepare my return, I sign it, and off it goes." So this year, we are planning to reduce his tax liability by probably $400,000. It's like, wow, what a difference that will make for him. Just because somebody said, "Wait a minute, stop the presses, let's take a look at this tax return." And he's not even a business owner, so he doesn't have near the choices of tax planning strategies that you guys have. But his accountant always just prepared the return and shipped it off. Didn't look at it from the eyes of a proactive entrepreneurial tax planning advisor. So now he has this new position on his financial team. And I think he's going to be very happy about it when we actually get his tax return finished. Our next profit leak is what I call using a vanilla tax preparer instead of that proactive tax planning entrepreneurial accountant. And the story I just shared with you was a prime example of that. A vanilla accountant. And a vanilla accountant is somebody who just looks backwards and records history, takes the information that you give them and prepares the return, puts the right numbers in the right little boxes, tells you how much you owe. They might meet with you during tax season just to gather your documents or maybe tell you how much you owe, but that's about it. That's a very plain vanilla tax preparer. And unfortunately, most tax preparers are that way. By the time you sit down with them, it's too late to do anything other than just pay the tax bill. Take a big gulp and pay the bill. Versus a proactive entrepreneurial tax planning accountant or tax preparer. This type of a person meets with you a few times throughout the year. They will review your numbers with you periodically during the year and bring you ideas and tax saving strategies to the table. In other words, they're on the same side of the table as you are. They'll help you choose and implement the right strategies for your business and for your goals. And they'll look for other ways to help you legally keep more of what you make. Because I'm not talking about doing anything shady or illegal or anything like that. I'm only talking about using the IRS code to your advantage. The difference between these two types of tax preparers can be tens of thousands of dollars for a smaller business, and it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars for a larger one. I love it when I can put two or three or $400,000 back in somebody's bank account, just because we didn't have to write that check. Some of you may have heard me share the story previously of one of my early tax planning guys who took his tax savings over 3 years and bought a commercial building that he then moved his business into. He since then has retired and continues to rent that building out and has passive income coming in now from that. All because he did some tax planning with me many years ago. So let's talk about what we can do instead. I know we like to have an action plan because we're not just about fluffy theory in this podcast. So, first of all, I want you to ask yourself a couple questions. Number one, am I currently working with a strategic tax planning partner? Am I currently working with a strategic tax planning partner? If the answer is no, listen up. I'll give you some ideas on how to change that. What tax strategies am I missing? What tax strategies am I missing? And you may not know, but we can certainly help you find out. How much money should I be setting aside to be able to pay my taxes? I'll repeat that one again. How much should I be setting aside so I have the money to pay my taxes? Here again, you may not know, but that's a number I can help you figure out. And what can I still do before year end? Repeat that one again. What can I still do before year end? Well, I'm here to say you have lots of options, and it'll be fun to figure out which options work best for your business. But the first thing I want you to do is open up a separate bank account for some tax money, and let's start funding it so that you can make your estimated payments and not having to create havoc in your business because it's time to make that payment. And the next step that I'd like to highly recommend you do is that you find a proactive tax planning preparer and develop a relationship with that person. Then schedule some tax planning meetings throughout the year. And in those meetings, you're going to want to review your numbers, your revenue, your profit, what's in the bank, what is that estimated tax liability versus how much you have in your tax account, those types of things. And then treat taxes like any other profit leak. If you discovered that you were losing $20,000 a year because of some wasted materials or overtime hours or something like that, you would immediately go to work and fix it. Well, I want you to treat your taxes the same way. They deserve the same attention. Go to work and fix it. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Let's fix it. It's not that hard to fix it. It's just another profit leak. So the goal is not to have you just keep working so hard to make more money. The goal is to keep more of what you make. You've worked too hard for your money to accidentally give it away when it doesn't need to be given away. Sneaky Leaky loves it when home service business owners ignore tax planning until it's too late. But now you know better because you've listened to this podcast. So I have one more question for you. When was the last time your tax preparer came to you and showed you some strategies on how to save on your taxes? If you're like most home service business owners, the answer is probably never. And that's not an acceptable answer. You can choose to change that for 2026. You don't have to keep repeating your history. I'd like to recommend or highly suggest that you book a profit impact call with me. And on that call, let's find out how much you might be overpaying your taxes. When you do, there's a couple questions on our Calendly link. Just mention tax planning as one of the reasons of why you set up the call. And I would be happy to sit down with you on Zoom and look through your last couple years' tax returns. And let's see different ways of where you might be leaking money out in taxes. And hey, if you're working with somebody who's good and just want a second set of eyes on it, there's been a couple times over the years that I've been able to tell a prospect that says, you know what, your accountant's doing a really good job for you. Keep doing it. But for the most part, I generally can find a lot of tax savings for people. Just simply click the button down in the show notes that says book your profit impact call. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to show you different tax saving strategies that are available and see how much you might be overpaying in taxes in your business. Also, but you might want a free copy of my book that says the 10 most expensive mistakes that cost service business owners thousands. In this book, I go through some of the basic tax planning strategies that we use. That's not all of them, it's just a very basic list. I'd be happy to send you a hard copy of that book for free. Just click the link to claim your free copy or reach out to me, Diane at profitcoachforyou.com or Diane at taxcoachforyou.com. Either email gets to my email and I answer all my own email. So Diane, Diane at profitcoach, the number 4, then YOU.com or Diane, Diane at taxcoachforyou.com. Taxcoach, the number 4, YOU.com. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to show you ways that we can save some tax in your business because you work so hard for that money. We don't want to let it just drift away. It's easy to plug this profit leak. And it's just as important of a profit leak to plug as overtime hours or extra windshield time or mispricing on your jobs or overhead costs that have gotten away on you. There's just so many other leaks, but this one's equally as important in your business. And I'm passionate about making sure that we help plug these profit leaks in your home service business. Now, before I go, I do want to share with you a hidden profit leak. I try to always share one on every single episode. So today's hidden profit leak is that most home service business owners focus on how much money they can make, but the smartest home service business owners focus on how much they can keep. They plug those profit leaks as soon as they become aware of them. They work on a plan. They might be part of my Profit Amplifier coaching group or some other group, and they start working a plan on how we can plug those profit leaks and put that money back in your pocket. All right, I know you found value in today's episode because how could you not? This is such a great topic. Be sure and like and subscribe. We appreciate you listening to our episodes every single week. For those of you out on YouTube, would you please like and subscribe out there as well, as we're also trying to grow that channel? And share our podcast information with your friends, with your business associates. We do appreciate that so much. And if you're interested in ways to plug those profit leaks in your business, please reach out, book a profit impact call. I'd love to talk to you. We don't charge for our profit impact calls because that's my way of sharing some knowledge and information with you right up front. And if we're good to fit to work together, great. If we're not, that's okay. It's fine. I don't mind meeting with you. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week on the next episode of the Profitable Home Services Podcast. Bye for today.